Have you ever been pushing through exhaustion, painful cycles, anxiety, or burnout, telling yourself this is just life, even though your body feels like it's breaking down? Here's something most women are never told. Chronic stress doesn't just live in your mind, it rewires your body. It disrupts your hormones, your cycle, your energy, and your ability to feel like yourself. Today, we're unpacking how stress silently hijacks women's health and how small, intentional shifts can help you regulate your nervous system, reclaim your energy, and finally feel safe in your body again. But before we dive into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie, helping women who are tired of pushing through pelvic pain, bloating, and hormonal disruption and burnout finally understand what their bodies are trying to tell them before they lose more years accepting dysfunction as normal. And today's guest is someone whose journey from overworked, high-stress survival mode to a life-threatening wake-up call will hit home for so many of you. Now she's helping women understand how stress shows up in the body and how you can finally break that cycle. Welcome to the Good Vibes Studio, Lolita.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Lolita, when did you realize that the stress that you thought was normal, was actually harming your body? Because we all heard about stress, but what about when that stress really started to be a harmful component to your life?
At the emergency room, when the doctor said, tell me what your life looks like, how busy you are. And he said that I better start taking care of myself. And for those who are wondering, how did I end up in emergency room? Well, I was just like everybody else, just working, doing life, right? But as you know, the women know that when you're stressed out and burn out, you can push whatever you want, but your body has a limit. And that stress obviously caused lots of inflammation in my body and mostly dysregulated my hormones. And I used to have my cycle that would last 3 weeks. And the moment I finished, then another one starts. So, and of course, it added fibroids and all of that jazz. And then I almost bled to death. Basically, that's what happened because I collapsed in the middle of the kitchen. And I mean, I was very thirsty. I woke up in the middle of the night. I went to the kitchen and I passed out. I still remember my head hitting the tile floor. It's still the same feelings stay with me. And then I was like, okay, I need to go to emergency room. This is not funny anymore. And I actually was not even thinking that has to do with stress at all. I mean, I was thinking there's maybe another problem, but then the doctor's like, listen, you're in your 30s, everything goes to stress. So I could not have thought that this is what it was, but when the doctor tells you, then I'm like, okay, I need to start listening to this now.
And that's a big thing, starting to listen to this now. One thing that really stood out to me when you brought in your personal journey was that 3-week cycle. I had a client who bled from 14 to 21 days, and that's how long her cycle would be. And we've been able to get her cycle through lifestyle changes and being intentional with mindset, stress management, mindful eating, movement, and really looking at life on a different way, getting into a healing rhythm and being mindful of what you just called that push through pattern, that you just have to get things done. You just have to show up. And I love that we got her to a 5-day period, and somebody who bled heavy, double decker pads stacking up on one another, and now using ultra thin pads on that cycle. Like, it is possible. And you said it, stress plays a huge part on how your body communicates to you and responds based on how that stress is impacting your life. And so I'm really glad that you broke that down. And so something else that stood out to me was that you talked about the ER doctor asking you, how busy are you? What does life look like? And I don't think we take enough time to truly reflect on how we're living, how we're showing up, and how that impacts our health, our habits, our healing, and what those routines look like. And I feel like we undervalue that. And for you, it almost cost you your life. And I think that's a big statement and testament to say, if you don't take a moment to pause and reflect and really take accountability of how you're living, how you're showing up, the identities that you're taking on, you're going to continue to think that stress is just common, because it is, but it sure shouldn't be your normal, because it can kill.
And I didn't even think that stress has anything to do with my health, because we've been always taught that we need to keep on pushing and keep on doing. And when I look at my environment that I grew up, like all of us now who's listening in, I mean, think, how are your parents were dealing with stress? Like, what about your mother, your sister, your grandmother, especially women? We just carrying that from generation to generation of, we need to sacrifice ourselves. Mothers give it all. You need to be this martyr that keeps on giving, giving, giving. And that's the culture that we used to. So we don't even think that stressing out is a bad thing. It's like, well, that's what everybody else is doing. And this just think, like, when you meet friends, like, let's say you haven't seen few, or for a few days or weeks or months, whatever, you meet and you say, hey, how's it going? What do you hear back? At least you tell me. But what I hear back is, most of the time, is, oh my gosh, I'm being so busy. I have to run around my kids. I need to take my oldest one to soccer. My parents are aging now. I have 3 businesses to run, and my husband driving me nuts. And it's like, it's always what we say is it's all about how busy we are. I mean, I never hear like, oh my gosh, my life is great. I'm just enjoying my cup of coffee. I'm not saying that you need to, run around in your Mercedes and be on a cruise ship every day, but just like enjoying your day and saying, I just did nothing. I mean, when do you hear that? Because that's very hard for us to even change, because we've been taught that we continuously need to be busy.
Agreed. And I like that you said it's a part of the culture, and it's a part of the thing that we've normalized. I also like the fact that you said check your environment. Y'all, drop the word environment in the comments if you're watching the video version here on YouTube of the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. And if you listen on your favorite podcast distribution platform, make sure you follow the channel and give it a rating. But drop the word environment. Today, one of my students reminded me that we had a guest speaker come in last year, and they talked about how 70% of healthcare issues, disease was impacted by environment. And so I don't think people understand, what did that environment look like? How are other people coping in your life? How have you been taught to cope, or not even acknowledge or ignore or push through? And I just think that that is very much so important to actually talk about and bring up to the conversation, especially this early when we're talking about stress management. Y'all, I wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by 4 Vibrations, where your health, your habits, and your healing finally align. And I want you to know that in the show notes, there is a quiz, and I want you to go and take that quiz so you can identify the lifestyle patterns that you have been living that might be fueling your inflammation, that might be impacted by that stress load, so you can start thinking about how to take action and change the rhythm of your life. Check the show notes and take the quiz. So Lolita, let's talk about this on another level, because I really want to understand, because you said you almost bled to death, and you said you had fibroids. When you started to change your life, what did that healing journey look like for you when it came to your fibroid journey of strength?
When I been told that I need to manage my stress, there were quite a few people that immediately told me, oh, you just need to go to a doctor. You just need to get yourself some pills so you can chill, relax, and you'll be good. Like, I was like, what? There's not, like, I'm busy. I'm working 60 hours a week. I barely eat. I don't exercise. I don't sleep well naturally. I'm irritated. I feel like I'm in a hamster wheel. What I just described, this is like, everybody does that, right? And I'm like, I am not suicidal. I am not, like, so I did do in my mind, I was like, why would I medicate myself? There is no really big deal. And then, of course, there were some doctors like, well, you can take the thing for your whatever physical. I was like, no. The physical manifested in my body because obviously I wasn't treating myself well.
Hmm.
And when I look at the nature, it's not like we can eliminate stress, and we shouldn't. But when you look at nature, like let's say you walk somewhere in the park and you see there's a concrete, a path, and there was like a flower growing through it, and there's this gentle flower, and you're wondering how is it. I mean, obviously it wasn't easy to come to this concrete, right? But they made it. And so there is stress in the nature. And we already heard, like, oh, the lion and the gazelle is eating the grass, and the lion shows up, and then the gazelle runs away and then continuously eating the grass. The problem is that we already heard it, but we do not think about ourselves, that we should stop like that gazelle does. We're like, oh no, we just so important, we're gonna go, we run through this. And when I started really looking into, okay, this is what I need to do, I need to take care of myself now, I start eating healthier, of course, because before then I will go to break room and whatever, donuts, cookies and pizza and all of this stuff, like, oh, this is so easy. Or also my favorite was, I'll just go to grocery store and just get those, frozen foods, like some frozen burrito, whatever, something. And I come back home, it's, hey, $2 or $3, pop in the microwave, cheap, fast, there you go. But that's not even food. And I was like, okay, I really need to start hydrating. I need to start doing some exercise. And that helped. But then I realized that there was deeper issues, because I started asking myself, and probably I mentioned that before when we had one-on-one chat. When I became stress management coach, I was looking, I was reading the book about how to build your coaching business. And the author mentions that she was an adult child of alcoholic. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. There's like terminology for that. And then I realized my dad was alcoholic when I was growing up. So it's not that my parents never taught me how to manage stress, how to do emotional regulation, how to accept my emotions and honor my needs. Definitely not. Actually, it was the opposite. I felt all anxious, and that contributed to me being ill in my adult life. Because when somebody grows up, and now those who are listening, and I want to, I am not condemning anybody's parents, by no means. Everybody's doing the best they can. Okay, we need to remember everybody's doing the best they can. And when you think about our parents, they also the same children that grow up with their own things that they had to struggle. So then I realized that the stress itself is not only going to impact my body because I eat well and I exercise now, but there is a deeper roots into that. And then that's when I realized that in my childhood, I was constantly anxious because I was living in an environment where I was not feeling fully secure and safe and taken care of. Of course, my mom did the best and always had food, and I went to school and had the best grades. But the state of mind was constantly, I was always in anxiety. I always hyper vigilant. And so my bandwidth was already, my default was to be very stressed out. And I was that gazelle that never could relax. It's constantly on the run. And so when I came to US, and I started working more, and then I worked overtime, and I just really didn't take care of myself. That's when my body said, okay, listen, you cannot do this anymore. So that opened my eyes to see that, you know what, there is more to stress than just going to yoga and writing diaries.
And it is. I'm glad that you kind of concluded on self-abandonment. And sometimes we don't even look at what that even equates to when we actually take inventory of our life. That's that self-abandonment. And I'm so glad that you also talked about, I realized, with that fibroid journey, with those heavy periods, I needed to treat myself well, take better care of myself. And that looked like what I could control first initially, and that was changing my food choices. And that's changing my relationship with food. Now, food is fuel, it's nourishing. I'm eating with intention, not just by convenience or with cravings. And that takes time because our relationship with food is so totally different, and it is based on culture, and it's based on how we grew up and what was accessible, because sometimes that's all certain people had to eat. And so I think that was really good. But then Also thinking about how it moved through to movement, knowing it's important to move, because usually when we're working a 9 to 5 or a corporate job, it's just moving from your desk to the bathroom or to the
Yeah.
door to head on out. Every now and then, if you hit one of those stressful moments at work, you go and take that 10-minute break where you might walk around the building or walk to the car. And so I think that was important to talk about movement and hydration, but it's so much deeper than that. And it's almost as if, Lolita, people take those external shifts to choose better on the outside, eating what food you're getting from the outside to put in, moving your body so you can feel like you're impacting it. It's those external factors and shifts people are making. But when you start working on that internal and you start becoming more aware of when you are anxious, when you are starting to get stressed, and how your body is communicating through those things, it really shifts how you're able to show up and take care of yourself. And I think that's really beautiful. And then understanding, where did this even stem from? What childhood experience, what traumatic experience, or what hard experience that I may not have truly processed and worked through and managed, to understand how to build my resiliency skills and my coping skills to navigate that hardship, to make that painful experience into something purposeful that's allowing me to grow up. I really feel like that's important, because that childhood anxiety showed you I was always anxious. I was always in a state of survival mode. And it was just how I was now wired and programmed as an adult, because that's where it started from, that foundation. And I'm really grateful that you gave some grace to the parents that are doing the best that they can, even if there's some of those impacts that have allowed us to level up, in regards to who we are now in the world as adults, but more importantly, people who show up and have empowering conversations and turn their life, work, and purpose into something of a movement, like a stress management coach or a healthy habits and lifestyle coach, that's willing to say, hey, this is what it looked like, but this is the power you still have in your own story. And so I'm really grateful that you were able to really hone that in and bring that experience in regards to where it looked like, for you. And that's really important. You say that stress doesn't just affect how we feel, but it affects how our body functions. And let's just say, let's give the people 3 tips, Lolita, of what is actually happening in the body when we're chronically stressed. Because maybe they're like, I don't know what chronically stressed looks like. This is my normal. Give them maybe 3 tips of what they could see, or signs that are evidence that their body is responding to stress, or what's happening with that body with stress.
So when someone feels like they hit the wall and they don't care anymore, they feel like they're in a hamster wheel, they become like annoyed with things or start snapping at the people they love, that's mean you're like at the end of a rope. um, when the body obviously reacts differently to different, people have different things, but you will start losing good sleep, you will maybe gain weight, you may lose weight, but also someone can say it can have other different things going on in the body, so you definitely need to check with the doctor. But usually the stress and the burnout, it starts really in our um, head. It's our mind, it's our state of mind, it's what we keep on pushing. And there is something I want to bring it up, that it helped me a lot to understand about stress, that how state of mind is very important, because I read the whole book about why stress is good for you. And so it's all about how do you think and what is your point of view about stressful situations. So for example, there were there was a group of doctors, the oncologists, and they were always meeting once a week, and they will talk about how bad they feel because they had like one will say, I had the surgery and my cancer patient only lived 1 month, and then the poor thing died, and now I feel so bad, I didn't save his life and this. And so every single day, I mean, every time when they will meet, there will be this sadness and hopelessness and disappointment. And so then they did this research. They said, okay, what we're going to do is, of course, they made, they wanted to see how their blood pressure is. And they kind of did like a little physical assessment. And they said, okay, and now we're going to split this group in two. So the first group are going to continue doing exactly what they're doing. They're going to meet every week and they're going to complain and be sad and just vent and, what life is, just do life. And then the second group will do differently. They will meet, but they will look everything from the positive point of view, and they will assign the meaning to it. So they said, well, so instead of saying, I had surgery and my patient died within a month, you will say, I had the surgery and guess what? This patient lived another month. So it was able to meet the family members. It was able to, close his deals and get all his, affairs in order and all of that. And I feel empowered because I gave that opportunity for that patient and the family. So, or for example, another one example, let's say somebody who's a mother and is like, well, I'm not a surgeon, like I'm just have to sit in the long line and wait for my kid to get out of the middle school so I can drop it off on the soccer game. And I'm like so stressing over here. And what may look like from a side, like, oh, come on, you're doing not much. You're just sitting at home taking care of the kids. It shouldn't be stressful, right? But when what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what situation you are in life, you need to assign the meaning to this. So for this woman who's sitting and waiting for her kid to get out of school and all stressing out because she has so much going on, think about wow, I am helping to grow an individual that will change the world, because that child will influence some other people. And we don't know how big or how small they will be. But if you can give a good word to someone, you already change somebody else's life. It's like a ripple. So when you assign the meaning to it of like, what I'm doing is meaningful because I'm influencing other people. What it does to the body, it lowers the stress hormones, because then you say, I am not stressed out, I am excited. So it's amazing how if we just change the point of view and the attitude and the meaning, we assign the meaning to that, then it changes everything. So, probably those who are listening in now, and you can think, how did that make you feel when you thought about yourself, sitting in traffic or stressing out? But then when you assign a meaning, it immediately kind of shifts the energy. So it doesn't take that much really, but that just shows that really it's a lot of it starts in our head. Because let's just think, environment, no matter how stressful an environment is, if you're really confident and if you know your boundaries and you know how to say no and you know how to not to deal with projects, with people and whatever, yeah, maybe you will look like someone that wanna, well, look at her, she doesn't want to talk to me now. But you need to do that in order to really truly love yourself, so you can protect your energy. And then those who can take care of themselves, not only by going to yoga and drinking water, but having boundaries and being strong mentally, that is changing your stress levels and definitely impacting your life and your body. So those researchers that I just told you about, when they went and they really looked into the physical body, how that changed, that, I mean, they didn't do nothing at all, nothing different that they were doing before, those doctors, and there were some other researchers done, but their body already got in repair. They was not so stressed out. The blood pressure was lower because of the mental state, how they started acting and how they were talking with themselves.
And I think that matters a lot. And I love that you went with the state of mind, or the mindset, and really having that positive point of view to find purpose or create the meaning. Because when you assign the meaning, you shift the energy. And that was really good. But some of the things you talked about, those tips to let you know, was one, hitting the wall and you don't even care anymore, a sign of burnout or stress. Snapping at the people that you love when you're just at that limit where you don't have that capacity to have patience and kindness and love, and you're just snappy. And then I had another one where you talked about either you're losing weight or gaining weight because you're so stressed. And it's the way the body wants to respond. The body is so complex. Like, it's not going to be like how everyone else's body responds to all the other things. Like, your body is unique. Your healing journey is unique. So what works for you may not work for other people, or what your body responds to, but it is such a different vibe when you really get intentional and aware of how to love and care for you all the way to the cellular level, not just what you see on the outside. But I really love that you got into that state of mind and that mindset in regards to how you really shift the purpose. And it's not even about just being positive all the time, because there is real pain. There is real troubles, trials, tribulations, challenges, obstacles that occur, and they don't all feel good when you're going through it. But if you're able to not only just have a positive point of view, but even a constructive point of view of how can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? How can I get better? It really allows you to see that experience of having some value still, even if it was something that you could really not choose to have ever experienced in your life. And I think that's really positive, because it all boils down to really just understanding how powerful your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs are, and how you own this thing called life in those experiences. And so I think that really matters for the woman who says, okay, Lolita, those are some of the things that says I'm stressed out, I'm getting burnout. How does she specifically know that maybe her body, her nervous system is dysregulated? So now we know I might be in a state of stress with hitting the wall, not caring, snapping at people, losing weight, gaining weight, feeling overwhelmed. But how do I know my nervous system now is dysregulated?
Anger, hopelessness. But there is something I really need to bring up so I don't forget to mention that's extremely important. When we talk about the mindset, we have to change things. Yes, absolutely. But I say stress management should not be stressful. Also, we cannot and we should not bully ourselves into success. And I deal a lot with coaching clients who very busy. They don't have already time to do anything, and the doctor, they told them, like, look, you really need to start taking care of yourself. And here I go, they come to me, and now I'm going to tell them the rules, what they need to do. What's happening? It's happening that we're adding more things for us to do. So imagine if somebody is already hopeless, they're already angry, they're already snapping at people, they're already gaining weight, they obviously have hormones out of whack because they don't have time, and also they don't feel good about themselves because they feel like no matter what they do, it's just never ending. It's like a constant wheel that no matter how much I will achieve, how much I'm going to calm down, it's still not going to work. And then you give yourself more things to do. That is not going to help because you are bullying yourself. So those who are listening in, be careful from going, okay, now I was not eating and wasn't exercising, and now I'm going to give myself this full schedule of now I need to get the shoes, and now I need to go walk the block, and now I need to eat carrots, and now I need. This is bullying yourself into this. Why change helps when you get in the healthy living, I think, it is when you understand that you're doing this for yourself, not from the point of view of something is wrong with me, I am broken, I am sick, I am not enough, I have to improve myself, I have to do this. Because basically you bullying yourself from one thing that you keep on bullying yourself, now you just changed the title and now you're doing other things. So I say, let's say you decided you want to go to the gym. You know what they say? Well, you just bullet through it. No, you're not. Because when you bullying yourself to do something, you abandoning yourself. And we being abandoned as we were children. Even your mother walking out of the room, you're going to get that trauma because your mommy abandoned you. That's like, it comes with the human package. Okay. We cannot we can't let that go. So it's very important for you to suit your inner child and tell yourself you're not going to leave yourself anywhere and you will honor your needs. So let's say you decided you want to go to the gym, but that day you don't feel good. Please don't bully yourself because you're going to stress yourself more. You're going to, basically you're telling yourself, I'm abandoning you. I'm abandoning your needs. Even though I know you're hurting right now, I'm still going to push you through it because, well, that's what we need to do. That's not helping you. So you need to tell yourself, I don't feel well today and I am not going to the gym. That is what it is when you help yourself. And this one, I believe that when we start changing how we eat, we change, our environment and all actions and mind. It those results that show up, yes, they do help a lot, but they help also because we honoring our needs. When we decide that this is where I'm going to show up for myself. So those who are trying to change their life already in the way of changing their lives, please pay attention and ask yourself in your body, how that makes me feel. If that makes you feel fearful, if that makes you feel like you pushing yourself and you feel this feeling like resentment, like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this, don't do it. This one thing I discovered with my clients that helped me also personally, and I did a lot with them. It's I ask this question like this. I do not give anymore a list what somebody needs to do because we are all very different. When you think God, universe will not waste energy on duplicating things. That's why we are very unique, and that's the beauty of this. So that's mean the same food that is good for you now, it doesn't mean that's going to be good for me. And we need to honor our needs. So now with the clients when they work, I don't tell them what they need to do. I ask them this question, and I'm inviting you now to ask yourself this question. Let's say stress management. Ask yourself, what I believe I can do that can help me to lower my stress. And that's what you need to answer to yourself. And that is what you need to do. Because if you don't believe that something's going to help you, that's you bullying yourself. And that's not going to help you. It's going to stress yourself more. But if you really ask yourself and say, what I believe will help me, and it doesn't have to be big. You may think reading a book for 30 minutes every day and closing the, taking a bath because I want to, that's going to help me. Do that.
Yes, I love that. Y'all drop in the comments for me. For me, I want you to realize that you are a priority, and Lolita just pretty much gave us that gentle reminder, like, what am I doing for me, for myself? How am I caring for myself? And I love that question, Lolita. What do I believe I can do to help lower my stress? And that belief also acknowledges their power and taking that power and that ownership back, because a lot of times I feel like people believe that everything is beyond their control, everything's happening and they have no accountability, control, anything's part of it, like they're just all out of it, the world's just spiraling and chaotic all around them and they have no power. And so I love when we're able to remind them of how powerful they are and how valuable it is for them to step into that belief, those thoughts, those feelings that elevate their identity, shift their identity into someone who can really start really making some purpose out of this thing called life and really loving themselves. And the journey for me started with a self-care journey, like similar to yours. It took a 4-hour-long surgery for me to realize how I was living was fueling pain, chaos, and inflammation in my body. That, like you, I went to the ER. They didn't ask me how I was living, but they did some scans, some MRI scans, CT scans, and they found a large cyst on my right ovary that had ruptured, that caused that debilitating pain that almost had me swerve into a lane that an 18-wheeler was coming. And that led me to getting surgery because my OBGYN suspected endometriosis and had no idea what it was. She said, well, you can get on birth control. It helps with painful periods. And I was like, but my periods aren't always painful. And the birth control isn't treating anything. I need to know what's happening in my body. This type of pain is not normal. I will not normalize it. I need to know what's going on. And so that surgery led to a stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they found 2 small fibroids at the time of the surgery in my uterus. And it really showed me when I looked into the research, the body was in a huge state of inflammation. A lot of those conditions are fueled by inflammation. It was like, but what are those root causes? And as I continued to navigate through my journey of being more aware of myself, loving myself, caring for myself, I realized, Lolita, that stress plays a huge part. What you eat plays a huge part. the emotions, the feelings that you have that are unresolved, and the situations that you have not provided to give yourself permission to have peace over, those things lingering in your body can fuel dis-ease. And it is so powerful to be able to be aware of those things. Then, even more powerful, to start taking action towards living different, healing different, being okay, providing what you called earlier, that shift to turn that into some type of different energy that you're going to be able to utilize purpose from. And so if there's someone that's listening today, if you are tired, not just fatigue, but you are just tired of feeling like you've tried every single thing and you don't know what else to do, take a moment to pause and really, what did Lolita's ER doctor say? How are you living? Just ask yourself, how are you truly living? And if any of these patterns resonate, I really want you to take the opportunity to take the quiz, but also to really take a look at these patterns. And the first pattern is the push through pattern. That's you keep going even when your body is exhausted. Remember, Lolita talked about being a bully to this new way of living. You don't want to do that. But you also don't want to just keep pushing through. I'll eat later. I'll just need to get through this. I don't want to slow down. People need me. Those things lead to burnout, chronic fatigue, worsening pelvic pain. And then you have the all or nothing pattern. You go all in, then you fall off. I need to get it right this time. I keep starting over. If I mess up, I'm just going to quit. That leads to inconsistency, frustration, lack of progress. And it also leads to you not believing in yourself, knowing that you can do this. Now you have this lower self-esteem, this lack of confidence because of your inconsistency, when it's really just getting a pattern and doing one thing at a time, one action step. Small habits really have a compounding impact. And so you don't have to radically change your life and go all in, when all you have to do is be all in on one thing and really build those reps in. The third pattern is the disconnected from my body pattern. You don't know how your body, what it needs, how it's responding anymore, because you just feel like, I've tried everything. Nothing works. I don't even trust my body anymore. And that leads to more confusion, dependency on external advice versus you just becoming more aware of who you are, how you're living, how you're feeling, what experiences you have, where your thoughts go when you're in silence or stillness. All right. Those are really big because you've never seen anyone see radical results, because there's probably a holistic tool or opportunity or wellness aspect that you haven't even considered that could actually be in great alignment for you. And so I'm going to tell you, don't give up. Keep trying different things, explore, tune in to empowering conversations when they're talking about what you can do within your own power to help yourself. That fourth pattern, Lolita, was the emotional suppression pattern. That's, I don't want to talk about it. I deal with it myself. I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I'm going to keep it all in. And we already know those feelings, those emotions, they trigger your nervous system and they impact your body, your full body on the inside. And then it starts communicating to you on the outside. That internal stress, that nervous system dysregulation, that inflammation. And then the last one is the self-abandonment pattern. And we talked about this, Lolita. You put yourself last. You don't think of yourself as much of a priority as all the other people, things, and everything else that's on your plate. And you say, well, I can't focus on me right now. These people need me. Everyone needs me. I'll take care of me later. I have a huge family. I feel good about showing up for other people, but I don't know what it really feels like. When I show up for myself, it feels a little selfish. It feels a little self-centered. And so if that's you, I want to knock that disbelief out, because if you don't show up for you, it limits how you can truly show up for other people. So it leads to exhaustion, resentment, and even your loss of identity. So we have definitely broke down a lot of these different patterns, and we're starting to see it in regards to stress management, and that's huge. And so, Lolita, I just really wanted to get into that because you said I have to do this for me, and I have to know what I believe in order to show up. And so if that is you, check the show notes, and I want you to get the Healing Breakthrough session to help you identify what pattern is keeping you in survival mode so you can finally move forward with clarity. All right. So Lolita, let's talk about this, because we're thinking boundaries, right? Because now we're saying no to other people and saying yes to us. What do you feel like most women struggle with when it comes to them actually honoring their needs, not feeling selfish when it comes to boundaries?
Fear. The
Mm,
majority of us feel fear that if I'm going to change who I am and how I'm going to behave now and who I'm going to be now, I will be abandoned. And we all know about the thing they say, oh, you may be not successful because you're afraid to be successful. But that success goes with everything, even having those boundaries. There are loyalties that we're afraid to break. We are loyal to the same environment that we grew up, like the same ways, like let's say, and you probably can relate. Um, let's say your parents always ate the same food that it's not healthy for you. Now, when you're gonna stop eating that food, you may feel like they're gonna make fun of you. More than that, you feel like you're going to dishonor the tradition. Then, because we are herd animals, we need to have our own tribe because we know if we will be excluded from the group, we die. That's the way how our brain works. So that's why it's very difficult to now suddenly have healthy foods because, well, like if you are a wife who is taking care of the kids and you now suddenly bring a salad on the table and your partner or your whatever other significant looking and he says, what, we're going to eat rabbit food now? You may be afraid to be laughed at. You may be afraid to break those loyalties, how your friends and your environment are going to see you now. And also, we understand that the other person that we're becoming is going to be a different identity. We may have
mm,
difficulty of letting go of that identity that was being not healthy, the one that was not it was people pleasing, the one that is always saying yes, the one that was afraid to have those boundaries, especially when we grow up in the environment that we're always catering to others. Suddenly we're gonna look like the stars with the letter B, and then nobody gonna like us, and nobody gonna hang out with us anymore. And we feel that we're responsible for those people as well. So I have clients who come to me and they're like, yeah, okay, I understand what I need to do, but how am I going to do this? This is not gonna work. And this is why I say, uh, it doesn't have to be so big. First of all, nobody's going to die if you say we're gonna eat salad now. Nobody's gonna die. If let's say you're gonna go to your parents, for example, your sister, whoever party, and they have the same food that you know is not good for you. I don't know, let's just say pasta, for example. I'm gluten intolerant. And I'm going to say, mother, I am not gonna eat that pasta anymore. And actually had that happen to me. I said, this is gluten, it makes my body bad. I do appreciate that you cooked for me because especially with the food, families, there is this emotional connection that has to do with getting together and eating and sharing the food. And then especially if somebody made a homemade food, they put like this time and energy and soul into that. So we feel guilty of saying, I'm not going to eat that pasta. This is bad for me. I'm not going to eat it. And you can think that you can have all those boundaries. This sounds great. And then you go to Thanksgiving dinner. And how are you going to tell your mother you're not going to have this, whatever she just. So it can get very complicated because we are now dealing with other people's emotions. But we're not responsible. How are they going to react? And when I tell you, when I stopped drinking alcohol, and I will go, hang out with my girlfriends. And I said, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore because it's causing inflammation in my body and I'm not going to do it. They had an issue with this. They were like, how dare you? What, And then they start pushing, like, come on, maybe a few sips. And I saw exactly what was happening. It was that they felt that I am abandoning them. There's this trigger, that fear of abandonment, the childhood traumas, the people pleasing, and we have to behave like a herd of animals. Otherwise, we feel excluded and not safe. And that really triggered their insecurities. But I stay strong. I was like, I am not drinking even one drop. And there would be parties. And like, oh, come on, you should just have one toast for me, just a little champagne. I was like, I'm not budging. This is my body. I already been suffered through all of this. I'm not doing this anymore. And nobody died. They were annoyed. one party, the second one. But then what happened? Other girlfriends stopped also drinking alcohol. And they said, you know what? I like you. You brought this up. I didn't have enough courage to do it. And now you gave me permission to do the same. So when those, now we're listening, you know, and we're thinking, well, it's going to be more complicated. If you will start small, just having small boundaries, just small something, allowing yourself to change something in your life, in your diet, and something, you also will be surprised. A lot of people don't care about you, they care about themselves. So the small things that you will honor your needs, and let's say, I'm not going to wash the dishes after dinner. I'm just not. I'm going to sit, relax for an hour or so, and then I'm going to think about the dishes in the sink. Because guess what? Those dishes not going to kill anybody there. Nobody will care. Nobody will care. Only you care. So basically, you're just imposing stress onto yourself when you can have boundaries with yourself and say, I'm going to relax right now. And when we start having those little victories, then we can build trust in ourselves, and then we can take up the bigger victories.
And I love that you said they don't care about you. So if they're offended by what it is that you're saying on how you need to show up for you and what is best for you to take care of you in that moment, that matters. Like even if there's a conversation, I realized that too, Lolita, looking back, but it took that chronic dis-ease diagnosis, 4 different, this diagnosis is for me to realize that people pleasing was an issue. Not having boundaries was an issue. All of those things play a part in how your body is when it comes to your health, your habits, and your healing. Like, and no one talks about that. You don't get that in a textbook. Take it from somebody with 2 health degrees. No one just really gets deep into what that really looks like in regards to your relation with yourself and that environment, and then your relationship with others and how that impacts you. Now we're good for what's trending now. I'm in a toxic relationship, or there's toxic friends, and that's like the trend or the common thing to say. But how are you being toxic to yourself? That's a more important question than who I allow that is toxic in my life. That's in addition to. So it's really, how do you show up for you? How do you love you? But are you being toxic to you? How are you showing up to really care for you? But I'm really glad that you talked about they don't really care about you if that's all they see is your no, instead of what that means to you when you're saying yes to what it is that you need. And I'm all for it. I've definitely been there. Me being plant-based, you're gluten-free intolerant, you don't drink anymore. Me either. There's a lot of different things that I no longer do that I used to do. That is a social thing or activity that brings people together. And when you don't do those things or you don't eat things, it's as if you're some type of alien or this abstract person when you're still eating food. It's not like you're just eating something, that is just totally out of this world that other people could eat too. It's just not their initial go-to item of what they could eat. But it's almost as if they really put you out there like you're just this totally different person because you choose to eat differently or drink differently or have fun differently and show up for yourself and your life differently. And it's okay for them to not approve of you if you approve of you and you're what you need for yourself to live and to keep moving. So I think that was really beautiful. How can women start honoring themselves without the guilt, especially when they're putting everyone else first? And that, think that's like a huge shift, because when we're honoring ourselves and you're so used to getting validation from others and people pleasing, that it's almost to the point, Lolita, where people make you feel like being selfless is selfish, or vice versa. And it's like, no, I can be self first and still be, you know what I mean, selfless without having anything to do with selfish. And so I think it just needs to boil down to self-love, self-care, and advocating for who it is that you need to be to really change your life and really see some things radically shift, because you deserve to get out of survival mode. You deserve to be able to go out and thrive despite whatever it is that you might have experienced. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Why do you feel like so many women struggle with self-love? Because we're on this self-love, self-care kind of vibe right now, Lolita. Why do you feel like so many women struggle with self-love, and how does that connect to stress and health?
Uh, we've been taught not to take care of ourselves. That's generational. It goes from generation to generation. And that's what they say. If you want to understand how you manage your stress, you just look at the environment that you grew up, because you picked up all of those patterns from there. And the thing is, how to change that, how to start loving yourself, how to start honoring yourself, you have to give yourself permission to do that. Nobody else gonna do that for you. You have to tell yourself, well, I understand now what environment I came, but it doesn't have to be the same. I have the power to change whatever I want right now for myself and for those that I love. And when I have clients who come to me and they say, okay, I really need to take care of my stress and all of this, I give them very one advice, and I immediately pay attention how they respond to this. So that's the test for those who are listening in. Here's advice. Every hour, or at least every few hours, set an alarm on your phone. Yes, use your phone for something good. And stop whatever you're doing for 1 minute. Of course, if you're not, driving or operating heavy machinery and all those disclaimers, stop whatever you're doing, have some water, or maybe just close your eyes and just relax. Just listening into your body, just be mindful. And now, here's the key. How did you react to this? Did you tell yourself, oh, this is stupid, 1 minute is not going to help me? Or you thought to yourself, well, it should be more to stress management than just 1 minute. I wish it was so easy. Or you told yourself, what? I don't have time for this stupid stuff like that. This is all excuses, you see? So when I have clients who they tell me, oh, I don't have time for this, I say, okay. And they tell me like, oh, I don't have time for this because I am running 3 businesses. I have to take care of my aging parents. I have 3 kids I need to run around town with all the soccer games and everything. There's no way I'm going to be doing this. I say, okay, so who's going to take care of those businesses and your kids and aging parents and all of that stuff that you're taking care of when you're in the hospital? Because that's going to be already too late for that. So, and that's why if we have difficulty of giving ourselves permission because we've not been told to give ourselves permission, or we've been told that we need to be ashamed of that, this got to change. And we need to remember that the authorities, or could be parents, grandparents, teachers, generational authorities, that told us that the women need to, take care of everybody else. They were wrong. They just acknowledge it. They were wrong. They did their best. That's what they've been taught. But they were wrong. And now I'm giving myself permission to take care of myself. So then I can give to those that I love. And like you said beautifully at the beginning, you cannot be empty and then give. You have to fill up your own cup before you can give other people. So if you're struggling with self-love and self-care, remember that's not even about you. You can show up for them if you show up for yourself. And more than this, that a lot of adults, especially who have children, they forget one thing. Remember how I just said it's generational? We learn from our parents, grandparents that we should not love ourselves because we should bully ourselves and push through it. If we're not taking care of ourselves and our own stress, we're teaching our kids to do the same. And, and I had a client who I was telling her, again, stress management, whatever. And she was also telling me that she cannot believe that her daughter, who just got married like a year ago, and she's just being all this and stressed out and everything. And I was like, what do you think she learned it from? So if you have kids right now and you think that you don't have time for this, guess what? Do you want your kids to be healthy? Do you want your daughter to respect herself and honor herself? Show her an example by allowing yourself to take care of yourself first.
I agree. I love that you said give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. I think that is really powerful, because if you don't, you'll probably be waiting for someone else to give you permission to do what it is that you already need to do for you. And so I really appreciate that reminder, Lolita. And I think this is where everything really starts to come together. Body signals, stress leading to symptoms, self-trust, looking at where this pattern stemmed from, what triggered it, what behavior was already there, what patterns did we already see happening in our life that were already kind of programmed or wired to a certain thing or was expected. But it's always a good level of questioning to just reflect, and then reflect deeper, and then go a little bit deeper and then deeper, because once we start going deeper, we can really start to get some awareness and acknowledging of some of the things that really don't align with where we want ourselves to be and where we would hope ourselves to be. And sometimes it's not even at the fault of other people that don't even know that this is happening. They just have to be on that intentional journey and be willing to give themselves permission to explore what they don't know about themselves. And that's really important. And I feel like that's really powerful. Something else that you said that really stood out to me was that the parent, and you're thinking about that cycle, and we're thinking about, okay, how does this relate to trust and your body? And what I really believe, Lolita, is that when someone is able to truly own their experience without shame, without blame, and with full intention on how do I love myself from the good, the bad, the ugly, the uncomfortable, and the comfortable, you really start shifting from that survival mode into thriving, because now nothing can hold you back. And all you see is challenges and obstacles as opportunities just to grow, to evolve, to level up, to get more meaning with this thing called life. And it adds a little bit more test to the testimony of why you even are doing what you do and why you're still here today. So I always tell people, if you woke up today and your heart is still beating, you have purpose. Somebody still needs you. You might just need you. And that's all that matters. What becomes possible for that woman when she finally regulates her stress and starts to feel safe in her body again, Lolita?
Really feels alive. Then, when you start honoring yourself and your needs, and above all, start celebrating yourself. And I don't want anybody right now listening in and saying, "Oh my gosh, now I need to do more. I need to." No. How about we also celebrate ourselves and our victories? And right now, those who are listening in, I want you to create a list and write it down, all the things, how amazing you are. Because you probably not even paid attention what you already have, and you should count as a victory. And if you have friends that are good friends, ask them to write you a letter and tell you how amazing you are. And then you build on that, because it's great to know how we know where we're coming from, but also it's good to know where we're going. And that when you trust yourself and when you acknowledge who and how amazing you are already, then you can give yourself permission to have more. You know that you're worthy and you are enough and you're doing the best that you can, even if the moment that you think you're not doing enough. You give yourself permission, you celebrate every little small victory, and then the sky is the limit if you allow it to be that.
It is. And regulation is the key to healing, right? It's really one of those foundational pieces once you start really getting regulated. So I like it. So y'all don't fear the unknown of just finding you again in this thing called life. So we're getting into the vitality sparks round, Lolita. Quick, rapid fire responses. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Here we go. One daily habit to reduce stress immediately.
Take breaks.
Biggest myth about stress management.
That stress management need to be very difficult to manage.
A sign your body is in survival mode.
You burn out.
One boundary every woman needs to set.
Say no to things that you do that has to do with you.
What does true calm feel like?
Peace of mind when you're okay with no matter what happens.
Here we go. Give some advice to the girl dads, father figures, male role models, partner spouses of women, young girls with heavy periods, pelvic pain, hormonal chaos, endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids. How could men be more a part of this healing journey?
Giving yourself and allowing yourself to honor your needs and also allowing others to honor their needs, and then have empathy towards each other, and understanding that we're doing the best we can, and we would, from that kindness and understanding that life is hard as it is, but if we can support each other and can be in there and showing the rest of people who are around us, especially our kids, that is possible, I think that's how we can change the world.
Gotcha. And what do you think the men could do to better help women with fibroids or endometriosis?
Be the support that she needs,
There you
emotional, especially emotional. When let her talk, give her physical touch, and say, how can I support you? Especially when she's venting, don't try to change or give her solution, just listen.
I like it. So emotional support. I got it. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would you all eat?
Well, I have a whole list of those historical figures, but I had this question before, and I think I would not want to have a dinner with a historical figure, because I think in history we have them painted in different colors than we actually those people are. So I would rather have someone that alive right now, that I know it could be real, because especially with the historical figures, we have a tendency of making them something else than they truly were. So I would be disappointed actually to have I would be afraid to be disappointed if I have a dinner with somebody who is a historical figure.
So that is the first time I ever got that question, to have that response, because Lolita, we just made history with this podcast episode. So it doesn't mean that because they're historical that they're dead, because we're making history every single episode on the Empowered Place, Empire Lives podcast. My granddad even asked one time before he chose his wife. Another time he chose to have dinner with me as a historical figure. So it's anyone that you feel like is really making an impact, that once they're gone, or the impact that they've already made is making history or her story in regards to us as females. So I'm glad that that's how you saw it, but it's definitely a vibrant conversation. I would love for you to have empowering conversations with whoever it is.
Well, then I would love to have a dinner with you.
Oh, what we eating, Lolita? What we eating?
Something healthy.
Okay, let's go for it. All right, Lolita, let everybody know where they can find you and connect with you.
So my website, beamazingyou.com. Also, if you want to get the stress management tips, I have a YouTube channel called the same way, Be Amazing You, the same name, Instagram.
I like it. I like it. And y'all, just because she has a YouTube channel, make sure you check it in the show notes and subscribe to her channel as well. Lolita, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the Empowered Place, Empowered Lives podcast guest. Y'all, stress isn't just emotional. It can also be biological. It reaches to the cellular level. And so manage that stress. Understand how important it is to check how you are living. Y'all, it's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Jovonnie. Check the show notes for all the ways to get your help. Take that pattern quiz and book your healing breakthrough session. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe and rate the podcast channel. Thanks for vibing with us, y'all.